Now, when it comes to doing an installation of an operating system, you have some choices on boot methods. What do we mean by that? Well, anytime we're installing or upgrading an OS, what's really going to happen is we're going to usually start the process by booting up or starting the computer up using the installation media. Good example. I'll take the Windows XP DVDs example I'll use. Going to put it into the machine, close the DVD drive, then I'm going to shut the machine down and restart it. Now, as long as the computer is set to check the DVD drive for boot files, and it will boot up on the DVD, and then it will start the installation by using the installation media files on the DVD. Especially when you're performing a clean install is when you will boot off of the media. Keep in mind, when you're doing upgrades, sometimes you'll boot off the media, and other times you'll be instructed to start up the old operating system, put in your new installation media, and kick off an upgrade from inside there. But let's go through the various boot methods that are mentioned in the objectives on the A+ CompTIA objective sheet. Historically, CD or DVD media is the most popular boot method during an installation, and it's still out there all over the place. You stick that installation media in, and the computer is restarted, and it boots off that installation media, and then all the tasks are performed using files on the installation media. Now, what's happening in reality, it is going to copy files into RAM and onto temporary file locations on the hard disk and then install from there. But the bottom line is we're going to boot from and run the installation from that CD or the DVD. Then there's USB. Now, booting from a USB thumb drive is a relatively new method, but it's really gaining popularity for one simple reason. It makes performing on-the-spot installations very, very easy and convenient. And you see administrators all the time now with their trusty little USB thumb drives, and they've got different operating systems, and they can just stick that USB stick in a machine, reboot that machine, and they can install an operating system right off that USB stick, instead of the various DVDs that we used to have to carry around. And the only real disadvantage here is the preparation time involved for loading and configuring the USB device. It has to have boot files, and it has to have the installation media, images, and all that sort of thing. Not a big deal, but it is an extra step, and it takes just a little bit of time. But just understand, you can boot from a USB thumb drive and install many operating systems. Now, PXE is the one. You may have heard about this, you may not have. This is the pre-boot execution environment. You'll also hear this thing pronounced PXE. And this is where we boot a computer from over the network, from a network card. We can kind of wake the computer up using this PXE functionality, and then installation files are delivered over the network. Now, what's happening in reality is the computer's using DHCP and a lot of time FTP and so forth to grab the installation files over the network. But the bottom line is in enterprise corporate environments, we can just stick a computer onto the network, turn it on, it will jump into the pre-boot execution environment, or we can contact that PC once it's on the network and carry on with PXE. So just know that PXE means remote installation over the network. Now, let me leave you with a note on boot methods. Any of these boot methods are only going to work if your BIOS start options allow the computer to check that particular situation for boot files. If you don't have the ability in your BIOS, or if you haven't turned it on to boot from a USB stick, then it'll never check the USB ports for boot files, and it'll never happen. So you may have to go in, make a BIOS startup adjustment so that it checks. Used to, we'd always check the floppy drive, and then we'd check the hard disk, and then we'd check the installation media, the CD, DVD, ROM. So now we're going to add USB into that. So just always watch for situations on the exam where you're trying to do a boot method and it doesn't seem to be recognizing the media. It may be that you have to do a BIOS setting to tell the computer to look for boot files in that location. So that's the various boot methods that are mentioned. What I've told you in this video is really what you need to know for the A+. Go check into it.